You're listening to Moment of Truth, a weekly challenge from the frontlines of faith, as heard on Courageous Christianity with Richard Mendelow, a radio show and podcast about real faith for the real world.
Today, our moment of truth comes from 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 15, which says, "For it is God's will that by doing good you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish people." As Christians, as we seek to have a positive influence on the world around us, it may seem harsh to say that by doing good you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish people. But don't forget, without the truth of Christ, without His grace, and without His mercy, we're all ignorant and foolish. That's the humility required by our faith, that but for the grace of God, we would all be ignorant and foolish and living in darkness. Christian humility requires that we understand that God's plan is that the light of Christ will shine on us and that we will reflect that light onto others. We are not the light, but as dedicated followers, we can be a reflection of that light. Why? Because as believers in Christ, God has invited us into His plan. Without the light of Christ on us and in us, by invitation, we too would be ignorant and foolish. In short, our faith is a gift, and that's how we should walk it out. How do we do that? Our first step is to focus on our own good choices, making the most of this gift. It's not about us or our opinions. It's about Jesus. In this way, we lay down our lives for Christ, striving to be followers of His example. We work daily to align our thinking with what Jesus says is right, and then we bring our actions into alignment with that. And we must work at it every day as Christians, as Christian husbands and wives, as Christian parents, as Christian brothers and sisters, and as Christian friends. Remember, Jesus said, "Greater love hath no man than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." And that's because first and foremost, we must give all of our choices over to Jesus, as true followers who know His Word. And that's how we can best influence others. Good influence comes from knowing Jesus in a personal relationship, from making right choices based on that relationship, from having compassion for those who don't know Him, and from committing each day to showing Jesus to the world by our own good lives. If God gives us free will, as we exercise that free will, who are we to deny others the same respect? Good influence doesn't come from judging others. It doesn't come from expressing disgust or disdain or from seeking conflict. It comes from humility and true commitment to Jesus. You are the only Bible most people will ever read. They will learn about Jesus from you. So let me ask you, what will people learn about Jesus from you? Will they learn that He was the Son of God and that those who believe in Him will also be adopted as children of God? Will they learn that we're not redeemed based on good behavior, but by faith in Jesus alone? Will they learn that Jesus is good and just, and that we can choose to follow Him each day? Will they learn that when we choose Jesus, submitting to Him and asking Him to guide all of our choices, we can have peace and joy despite the trials of this world? Will they learn that Jesus is kind and compassionate from your kindness and your compassion? Will they learn that Jesus is forgiving by your forgiveness? Again, you are the only Bible most people will ever read, and when you choose to serve God with your whole heart each day, not in religious guilt or judgment, but in the love, truth, and light of Jesus Christ, not only will you have peace, but your life will also be a beautiful testimony and a living example of what faith in Jesus Christ should look like. And that's Courageous Christianity.
This has been your Moment of Truth. To hear the full conversation, visit CourageousChristianity.today/listen. Or search Courageous Christianity with Richard Mendelow wherever you get your podcasts.